Hello and welcome back to the Pasta Podcast where we talk about nothing but pasta. Today, we will not be talking about pasta. Today, we'll be talking about movies. I'm Olivia and this is.
Gigi,
How are we doing today, Gigi?
we're doing great. My power did go out, but we're doing great.
Is your power still out?
No, I would have told you if my power was still out. It was only out for like an hour and a half, but it was so boring.
Yeah, so we kind of wanted to do this thing where well, I suggested that we do this thing where we do TV shows one week and then movies the next. And we were kind of like trying to think we were supposed to make a list of our favorite movies, but I'm a procrastinator. I don't know if Gigi's done it. Gigi, have you done it?
I did. It's a very short list, so.
So I'm a procrastinator and Gigi's very good at what she does. So so let's just start with our favorite movies. Why don't you, like then we can end it like that, like a movie sandwich. So Gigi, why don't you start us off? Why don't you start us off with your tell me like if you have a top 5 movies, what's your fifth like least favorite top fifth movie, if that makes sense.
I think my least favorite movie in that order would probably be like Night at the Museum, and that's only because I don't watch it very often. It was just really nostalgic for me. Um, but it's not a movie that I have a lot to talk about. It's literally under the list called good movies, and it's the only one on that list, and my favorite movies are above it. So, that's my least favorite movie.
Um yeah, I like Night at the Museum. I feel like it's an underrated movie with I mean, I feel like a lot of Ben Stiller movies are very underrated. I know we talked about Ben Stiller in our first episode, and now we're coming back around to him. So I do like Ben Stiller. I think he's a good actor, but I think you know one of his best movies.
Zoolander. I was really close to saying Zootopia there.
Oh man. But Zoolander, what a great movie. I mean, it was due for a rewatch. I don't think I got it much as a kid, but as I got older, it held up, you know?
Yeah, I remember we went to go and see the sequel, and at the time I hadn't seen the first movie. So I didn't get any of it, but you were like, "Do you want to go see the sequel with me?" And I was like, "Yeah," because I wanted to hang out with you. But I hadn't watched the first movie. And then years later, I watched the first movie.
Eventually, we got around to it at some point. Um, Personally, I think that my fifth least favorite movie. I got a lot of like if we're talking current favorite movies or all-time favorite movies. What did you do?
I mean, a lot of my favorite movies on here are current movies. I've only got one that like I haven't recently discovered, other than Night
Mhm.
at the Museum.
Okay. So I'm just gonna go down the list and rate my 5 current favorite movies. If you if you actually want to do that first though, because you started us off. So give me on one hand. So Night at the Museum is number 5. What's 4, 3, 2, 1?
So I feel like the next four are in like no particular order. I just know a lot about like two of them. Um, Shazam and Blue Beetle are on that list. Barbie and Pirates of the Caribbean.
That is a very solid list. Which Pirates of the Caribbean?
The first one. I mean, I like two and three, but the first one is like it sets the tone for the whole thing and it puts everything in motion. So I feel like the first one is like the one that I would be like, yeah, that's my favorite movie.
I get that. I think my favorite out of all the Pirates of the Caribbean is the third one. just because there's so much that happens in it. Like like Will and Elizabeth get married, and then Elizabeth becomes the Pirate King, which I love. I loved that. I was like, that was everything. Um,
What a girl boss moment for her.
Truly. No, truly. She is and like the fact that like Jack Sparrow is such a lunatic that like he votes for her, and I feel like he votes for her out of like he knows that she'll do well.
Yeah, I think that that was really nice. Also, um, I think that the scene where they just spontaneously are like, Barbosa, marry us, while they're in the middle of a battle scene, I don't care how cliche it is or like how sappy it is or how it like maybe doesn't make sense. I think that scene is great. And I think it's so funny, especially when Barbosa is like, "Oh my god, just kiss. I'm busy."
I no, I love that scene. But if you want to talk Barbosa scenes, um one scene that makes me cry every single time we watch the movie, and we can get back to this later in the episode if you want, um, is the end of the fifth movie when Barbosa is like dying, like he's about to die. Spoilers, I guess. Um, but when he's about to die, and then the Karina girl is like, um, who am I to you? And then he looks at her and he goes, treasure. And then he sacrifices himself, and that makes me cry every single time. It's so good.
Yeah, that was a really good scene, I feel like. And I know that a lot of people didn't like the sequels and everything, and I'm not going to say that the sequels were my favorite parts, but I do think that scenes like that are overlooked because oh, they're beating a dead horse or something, you know? Because I think that was a really poignant moment for Barbosa because he's been very, you know, he's a pirate. He's very harsh and hard and everything, and it's not common to see a pirate having complex emotions or having a daughter in the first place. So it feels like a lot more personal when you see it. And also
Yeah.
sacrificing for somebody that you barely know, even though they're your daughter.
No, I don't know. It's just I feel like Barbosa has such a good like he's got great character development. He's like got the full circle, you know? Like he came all the way from like being like he was the sole enemy in the first one, and by the end he's their ally, and I think that's I love movies like that. I'm such a happy ending freak. um but moving on, I would like to rate my top 5. um I don't let's see. I'm JJ, I'm gonna bring in the B word. I've been watching a lot of Bollywood movies lately. Um with icons Shah Rukh Khan, Ranveer Singh, Deepika Padukone, Kajol. I think that my top 5 movies right now would might be, and I might butcher these names, but only 3 people watch this. So. Um, Blue Beetle, definitely. Barbie, definitely. Um, Om Shanti Om. Uh, I'm gonna make a quickie, and I'm gonna say DDLJ because I just watched that and I was like taken away by it. And for the fifth movie, um, I feel like I can't get by without saying a Star Wars. So Revenge of the Sith. That's probably like that's like my comfort movie. Like I can watch that whenever. I know it's like the saddest one of the three, but like I just it's so it just takes you on a journey while you watch it. It's such a good movie. It makes you go through all the emotions. It makes you see how the kind of person that Anakin's become and the what he gives into and how he feels like he has no choice, but it's also the people around him who made him feel like he had no choice. which I think is really intriguing and not a lot of people talk about it. Because he was super against the Sith. He did not want to turn to the dark side. He hated them. Well, not hated because that's against the Jedi code, but he did not like them. And the fact that he felt like he had absolutely no choice, that nobody was going to help him, the only way was to turn to his mortal enemy. I think that it's something that happens in a lot in our day-to-day lives that we don't really think about, that we give in to like a feeling of like we give in to certain feelings that we don't, that we despise, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm getting too logical. Um but I think that going off of I'm gonna stop talking about Revenge of the Sith, because if I talk about Star Wars too much, I will go down a loophole and I will be only talking about Star Wars for the remainder of this episode. And I will do that if I am obligated to, but I'm not going to. DDLJ, I'm not going to say what it stands for because I don't really know. Hold on, I'll look it up. GG Entertain.
I don't know how to entertain. I'm not the entertainer. Do I look like Billy Joel?
Talk
Um
about Shazam. So like in with Shazam, what did you think about the second movie compared to the first one?
I think that I really liked the second movie, but like the first one feels it it feels more special to me. But I don't think that the second movie is any like that it's not true to the characters at all or anything like that. I just think that the first movie is my personal preference if I was going to rewatch one, or at least, I would rewatch the first one and then I would rewatch the second movie. I've actually got like a lot to say about Shazam, like the first movie, because I found out quite a lot of things about it today and the other day when I was researching. And by researching, of course, I mean watching one video on Shazam. So that is the extent of my research. And the majority of it, if not all of it, comes from a channel on YouTube called Cinema Wins. So it's like Cinema Sins, except they don't sin the movie. They're like, this was a great thing. So it's better.
I actually I really like Cinema Wins because Cinema Sins makes me depressed. Especially when I watch the movies that I really like. And they're like, this movie sucks because of this, and this. And I'm like, oh, made me sad. Um, anyways, one of the movies I was really interested that I recently watched for the first time that I really liked was called DDLJ. So it stands for Dilwale. I might butcher this. I'm actually no, I'm definitely gonna butcher this. Dilwali, Dil Dulhaina, Le Lee J N G. Wait, Diwali Dilani De Le JNJ. I think. In English it means the big hearted will take the bride. Um, but I'm just gonna call it DDLJ for reference because I cannot keep saying that. But it's Shah Rukh Khan and Kajol. Shah Rukh Khan is just the best. He's just fantastic. I feel like that's the go-to Bollywood movie that people watch. I mean, Indian movie. So like that's kind of like the movie that put him on the map, I'm pretty sure, of like cuz Shah Rukh Khan's like the most famous person in India, I believe. And that was like what gave him his start. And I know that he's in a lot of other stuff with Kajol too, cuz they're like known for being like a romance thing. And I do really enjoy that. I really like both of them in it. It's such a heartfelt movie. It's very sweet. But um Om Shanti Om is also a fantastic movie that came out in like 2007 or something. Um Me and Gigi recently watched it. But I feel like that's a Deepika Padukone. That's her first like that's her first like real movie. that she's ever been in. And I feel like she kind of steals the show with it. She she is truly Shanti Priya. Like I don't think I could picture any other actress as her. And I noticed that her and Shah Rukh Khan are in a lot of stuff together. And I know that Shah Rukh Khan's in a lot of stuff with these women where he gives them usually the main role because they don't get paid the same as men in India. And so he'll make sure that like they get equal pay, or like they get the main role so they get the better pay, which I think is kind of cool. But yeah, he's in a lot of movies with Deepika. He's in this one most, I think this one is his most notable one other than like a couple of others. But yeah, it's basically a guy who dies and gets reincarnated to take revenge on his killer. It's great. It's fantastic. No, not his killer, but Shanti Priya's killer. What do you think, Gigi?
I really liked it when we watched it together. Although I don't really like I don't have a lot to say about it because it was the first and only Bollywood movie I've seen so far. Um but I hope to watch more with you, especially Circus cuz that was the other option that we were going to it was like Om Shanti Om or Circus. Um but I really liked Om Shanti Om when I watched it with you. And honestly, thinking back to it, I didn't think that it was that long. But maybe it's because I've sat through semi long movies before. Like we said, like you said that the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie is one of your favorites. That's like a 3 hour long movie. A lot of the movies now are becoming like 2.5 hours long. So I think that it's just I'm younger, so I've adjusted to watching longer movies. But it didn't seem I don't think there was any part that like bored me or anything, but there were parts where I was like, well, you had already told me the story. So there were parts where I was like, oh my god, the seeds are planted. I know what's going to happen. It was exciting.
And that's a great movie for being like, oh my god, he's gonna do this. Oh my god, no, he's gonna do this. It like keeps you on your feet the entire movie. And I think it's great. There's I just I love it. There's a part in it, like in the middle, where that was the first Bollywood movie I watched where I was like actually actually like crying. Cause I was like, this is so sad. And like I feel like Om and Shanti, they get to this because that's the main character's names, Om and Shanti. And they get to this point in their relationship where they're not where he's not really looking for love for her, or no, he's not looking to love her, but he wants her to be happy, and that's what makes him happy. And I know that's super cliche, but it's like it's like trying to like look out for somebody, and then he realizes that he can't look out for her, he can't save her, and that's when I started crying. And I was like, and it's almost like he can't live with himself because he knows that he can't save her. And I think that that's what kills him ultimately in the first half. And this isn't spoilers or anything because this is the literal first half of the movie. um but yeah, and I know a lot of people have trouble when watching Bollywood movies because of the subtitles. Um, because obviously if you don't speak Hindi, it's gonna be a little bit difficult to watch the movie. But I also don't think it's that big of a deal. And it might be because I've become so accustomed to reading the subtitles that like looking down and looking up. Um, but if anything, it like I watch subtitles anyway with movies. Like in movies with English, I watch movies with subtitles because I don't know what they're saying usually. Um, And I recently saw a Bollywood movie in theater and I was like, "Oh, it's going to be really hard for me to pay attention." But it actually wasn't at all. It was completely fine. I mean, I think that people are just, yelling at air. They're just finding something to complain about with those kind of movies. And I mean, they are very long, but it doesn't feel like they're long. They usually have multiple plot points going on, so it's not like one plot the entire movie and you're just bored. It's a couple stuff going on, like Usually in love stories, it's the love story at the first half and then them resolving them at the second half. Like in DDLJ, it's the first half is them falling in love, and then the second half is him trying to get their parents' approval. And that's like the same thing with Om Shanti Om. And I think it's interesting how they go about that, really. I don't know, with the let's see. I also said Barbie and Blue Beetle, right? Gigi has watched Barbie twice. I have only watched Barbie once and I cried like twice or something. But let's get on that. Gigi, what movies have you cried in that you can think of like recently?
Um, well, I've been a little I think it's that week. I've been a little bit emotional the past couple days, so it's been a little bit easier for me to cry, but I actually didn't cry the second time that I was watching Barbie, although I got close. But recently, I think that I cried a little in Barbie the first time we watched it. I don't think I cried in Blue Beetle, which I mean, for people that haven't seen the movie, they're going to be like, why would there be a reason? But spoilers. But I definitely I definitely think I shed a tear the second time that I watched Shazam, cuz the first time we were watching it together it was kind of fun. But the second time that I watched it by myself, I was like the part where he finally meets his mom and everything. I cried a little, just like a little. Not like tears were pouring down my face, but like one singular tear got about this far onto my face. They can't see me, about to my nose.
And another point about Shazam, I feel like him meeting his real mom, quote unquote real, his blood mother, I feel like that's when he gets the validation he needs to go out and be a superhero. I feel like that was what he needed. I know that she's kind of like, I've never met you, I don't know who you are. You may be my blood son, but you're not my son. And that was what he needed to sort of be like, okay, I can let this go now, you know? And then he could go off and do Shazam stuff.
No, yeah. There's something that Cinema Winds pointed out when they were doing their video on this, and I think it's a moment of she's not his hero anymore because she's not built up in his head like she was when he was like however old, like 6 years old or something. When he was a little kid, you think that your parents are your heroes, and even if you like lose them or something, even if you start thinking maybe they never looked for me, in your head you're always like, no, they definitely did, they're still trying. But then when you meet them and you have that clarity of she didn't look for me, she didn't really care. I mean, she did care, but she thought that I was better off with like in the system, which is not really a good place for kids to be. But I guess if you're not going to care about them, I don't know. I'm not adopted, nor was I a foster kid, so I have no place in that. But um, something that they mentioned was that the scene that they play at the beginning, about where he like gets lost and everything. Um, so you notice that like the mom is like talking nicer to her kid. She's talking nicer to Billy and everything, but in like the real version of events, she's like a little bit agitated and everything. But something else in that scene is that in the first scene where she's talking nicer, the the scene is later. It's more bright, and her hat and her gloves are white, and her like coat is of nicer quality. And in the original like version of events, her beanie is like gray and her gloves are black, and she doesn't have a great coat on. And it's just one of those little tweaks that you don't really notice, but then you're like, that changes a lot. That makes it that makes it almost like worse now that I've noticed that, because it's like, oh my god, he really built up this idea of his mom being like this incredible, like angelic thing, and she didn't bother picking him up when she found him.
Yeah, I think that Shazam's underrated for that. And especially, I don't know if you cried in the second movie, but I definitely did. Um, during that final sequence, I was like, it was really hard for me to like, it's hard to accept that sort of thing. Cause like, I feel like he finally, and like, towards the end, he finally says, he calls, his foster mom, his mom. And I think that that's very, like, important to show that he's completely moved on. He doesn't need the validation of his blood mother anymore. And I think that it shows how it, it's funny how important it is that like he sees his foster family as his family, and he's finally like made that full circle of like, I can rely on them now. They're like the best people I know. They're my best friends. And I think that a lot of it is them just learning from each other, which is nice. And I don't know, it's just I feel like Shazam is underrated for that, for the showing how different families can be like that, and how you see your family one way but they might actually be another. And I don't know, it's just a very underrated movie. Two movies. And which brings me to Blue Beetle. I did cry in Blue Beetle last time. Well, I didn't cry, but I was like, because I was trying to hold it in. But towards the end, I was crying a little bit just because I was like, "Oh, this is really sweet." Um, but also like I feel like getting the backstory of Jaime Reyes and like who he is and who his family is to him. I think that's really cool how they added that in, because that's not really a huge aspect in the comics. Which it could be for multiple reasons. It could be the wrong writers. It could be whatever. But I think that's really cool how they made that like the most important thing in the Blue Beetle movie is that he relies on his family. His family is there for him. He's not worried about um like he's not worried about a secret identity because, well, first of all, they would have known from the get-go, but also like he's there to protect them no matter what happens to them. And they're there to protect him apparently, judging by the movie. But yeah, Blue Beetle was really good. I've noticed that it's been doing better this past couple of weeks, which is good. Um, what about any upcoming movies? Any upcoming movies you're looking forward to?
I think I know what you're getting at, and I don't know if I want to say that word on this podcast, but
Dune Part 2.
here I
No, I'm
go.
kidding.
uh, so the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is coming out in October, and the face that you just
Dramatic
made,
pause.
Olivia, was beautiful. And I don't know, I don't know if I don't know if I'm like extremely excited for it because I'm like, yeah, the storytelling is going to be great. I think I'm mostly just excited because I'm like, I grew up playing the video games or watching people play the video games. We just completed the sixth night and technically the seventh night of the original games. It's just that they were all set to zero in the seventh night. Um, but we don't have to tell anyone that, even though I just told everyone that. Um, so I don't I don't know that I would be watching it if I didn't have that connection, but I plan on watching it.
Well, and the thing is with Five Nights at Freddy's is um it's such like a thing where like you either like it or you don't. And I do understand people who don't like it because I did go through a phase of like I don't like this. I don't get how I could ever like this. But when it came out when we were like preteens, and so we were kind of going through that phase of like trying different things and getting used to different things. And um I remember just finding that game and like playing that game, and it like it made me feel strangely happy, like just like because I was a weird kid. We were both weird kids. And it was like, it was finally, we had something to like get it out. When I was little, I really liked Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know why, I just clung to it. When you're a child, you like to cling to different things, and I was a Minecraft kid. Me and Gigi were both Minecraft kids. Um, we probably still are. And I think that my childhood games revolved around Minecraft and Five Nights at Freddy's, even though Five Nights at Freddy's, I was only into it for a short period of time. I was only into it for like a year or so. When like the first 4 games came out, I didn't know about Sister Location or Pizzeria Simulator or any of those. I was just kind of into like the first 4. And I remember after the 4th one came out, I was like, okay, they're probably done after that. And in high school, I kind of went through a phase of being like, I'm too cool for that. But I think that I don't know, ever since I've graduated, I don't care anymore. Like I don't care what people think of how I what I do, how I live my life. Like if I'm going to play a video game, I'm going to play a video game. I don't care if that's weird or whatever. But and I feel like it didn't take me until like graduating high school to figure that out, which is a long time. But I kind of sort of realized that liking Five Nights at Freddy's doesn't make me strange. It doesn't make me creepy. Um, I enjoy a game. I enjoy a good game at that. You know, I the lore is something weird to get into, and you can go down that loophole if you want, but I can't I can't say that you'll get back up from it. Um, because as a kid, I
I
didn't know
never could.
as a kid, I didn't know any of the lore. I mean, I think I knew like the basic stuff, but that was far before they had come out with any of like the new stuff, and I didn't know any of that, and they've improved on it so much since then. But yeah, who do you think? Have some words on it, Jade.
I think that as far as Five Nights at Freddy's goes, I was always really super into the lore, but I don't think I understood it, you know? Cuz there are a
I
lot
don't
of
think anyone
questions.
understands it.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions that um make you like when you're so young, there's a lot of questions that make you think, well, why would somebody do that? Uh, why would somebody do this to these children, and why would they put them in these suits, and why are the suits possessed, and how does that even work? Um, but especially with the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, there are some liberties you have to take where you're like, okay, I don't need to know everything. I don't I don't pretend to understand how in this universe um like souls are able to possess just suits. um I'm not going to pretend that that's normal, or that that's something that I could understand in a normal universe, but you just kind of have to accept it so that you can move forward with knowing the other stuff. um but I was very into the lore as a kid, and I'm still pretty into the lore. I think I can answer a lot of the lore based questions that people have about the game. But like, if you know a lot about the series, I can't answer all of them. But if you know a little bit about the series, I could probably answer all your questions, you know? So, the
Well,
lore
in
master.
lore master Gigi. Um, no, you definitely know more than me. And fun fact, Gigi never actually played the games all the way through. I'm not calling you out or anything because a lot of people haven't. Um, but Gigi got really into the lore, and it was the opposite for me. I just wanted to play the games, and I didn't really get into the lore. So that's kind of funny. Um, but that also brings me back to the movie because I'm like, with all that stuff to cover, I feel like a lot of it should be. I'm gonna be bold with this one. I think a lot of it should be ignored. Um, for the sake of an entertaining film, a lot of it needs to be ignored. And I'm not saying that goes for like ignoring like the newer games, ignoring like security breach and erase the whole Apton family. I don't think that's necessary, but um I think in the sense of like creating an entertaining movie, there's some creative you need to take some creative liberties. And that is like a lot to handle, especially like the video game fans are going to get it handed to them when they think that it's going to be exactly like the games, which it definitely isn't, because look at the games. There's like three things you can do in the first game, and that's check the cameras, turn off the lights, and turn off the door. So you gotta you gotta really think about like what are you gonna do. But I feel like for a lot of comic book fans especially, we kind of live with the fact that when we see a comic book movie, it's not going to be completely accurate, and we're used to that by now. Like I feel like a lot of directors and writers, they pull from comics and they think they've read a comic and they're like, "Oh, that I liked that part," and they grab it and they put it in their movie. But they're not like, "Oh, it needs to go in continuity of this exact comic book." It's like, no, that's not how comic book movies work. It might be how book adaptions work, but not for comic book movies, not for video game adaptations. I mean, I don't think I've seen a video game adaptation movie in a while. I didn't watch The Last of Us because I never played that game. I wasn't interested in it. And let's see, I never watched The Witcher because I, once again, wasn't interested. But I can't think of any movies that are like based off games that I've seen. So this is probably going to be the first one. But I think it's the same deal with comic books in the sense that you just kind of need to take it with a grain of salt, is all.
Yeah, I think that I mean, with all of the lore that like let's say that everything that Matt Pat has come up with, all of his theories was correct. His entire like timeline video, um they had to be separated cuz it was like close to 2 hours long. And that was in a way that's like very short and it keeps your attention, but it's very lore packed. And the movie is not going to be able to be like that and also be entertaining for like normal watchers of movies. So there are some creative liberties that they're going to have to take. Like I don't think that unfortunately Funtime Foxy will be in the FNAF movie. I don't think that um where Vanessa comes from in the games is going to be implicated into the movie. Maybe it will, but it there's going to be some things that like yeah, that's a little bit wrong for the games, and that's okay because it's a separate project that's just based off of the games. I don't think that we should be using the movie as like this clarifies this for the video games cuz I'm pretty sure that it's like a separate parallel to the actual games. It's a different story that's told in a different way. And there are some things that they have to cut out and there's some things that they have to add to make it a digestible story for movie theaters.
Which explains why the Aftons are not British for some reason. It
Yeah,
helps
we
me
don't
hate.
want to see that.
No, it helps me hate William Afton more that he's British. I'm gonna like him if he's not.
Yeah, and I don't remember what the actor's name that's playing William Afton
Matthew
is, but
Lillard.
I've seen him in a lot of things. He's
He's
got
in
a very
Stranger.
likable face. He's got a likable face. Why did they choose him? Like
Yeah.
he can play a pretty good like bad guy, I feel like, but I I think that he's just a little bit too likable for me to be able to immediately take to hating him, you know?
He was in Scream. He played the Ghostface guy. So it's not like he's never done horror before. Actually, I'm pretty sure
Well,
he's done the Ghostface thing.
didn't he also do Scooby Doo?
Yeah, that's all I know him for, actually. That he's Shaggy.
Very, very diverse kind of casting for this guy. Well, I will take this time to say that I have I have quite a lot of things that I well, not quite a lot of things. I have some things that I found out about Pirates of the Caribbean that I would like to say at some point. And also, I would really love us to talk about Barbie more since we both watched that and me twice, which my mom was very nervous to go to the movie theater yesterday because she was like, I'm going to cough the whole time. It's going to be awful. I'm so nervous. Maybe I should just pay for my ticket so I don't feel awful. And I was like, stop it. And then immediately when I got there, I was nervous because Josh was at the box office and not Alondra. So I was immediately nervous. But you could tell because he put our tickets as re-ads instead of employee tickets. So it's kind of like a, ha, I got this from a manager, except, I mean, he didn't say anything. He was just like, here you go. But I was still nervous because it was like, oh my God, that's my, that's my boss.
I feel like seeing Barbie in a movie theater is a different experience than seeing it by yourself at home. Which I do like about movie theaters is that you get a different experience that you do at home, but that's not to say that if movie theaters closed down forever tomorrow, I would still watch movies at home and I'd be fine. I would just be out of a job.
Yeah, we would just be unemployed, but, it's fine.
um but I mean, with working at a movie theater, I'm not going to say like, it comes with perks because I mean it does, every job does. Um but I feel like the coolest thing about working in a movie theater and having been working in it for so long is that being able to have the ability to know when movies are coming out, when somebody asks you, and when a movie had come out like a while ago. And I find that to be something kind of cool with working there for as long as I've been there is like being able to be like somebody's seen a movie and they recommend it to you and you're like, "Oh, I haven't watched it, but I remember when it was out and it was really popular." Or like knowing a movie like, "Oh, it came out but it didn't do very well." So I'm like, "Oh, maybe I'll watch it, maybe not." But it's also something you can't really judge a movie based off of the ratings and the scores because a lot of my favorite movies have terrible ratings. Like Revenge of the Sith is like a 60% on Rotten Tomato or something.
Just straight up wrong, but okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like liking movies is definitely a matter of opinion and it's always going to be like that and that's how things are. And if we didn't have that then people wouldn't exist, robots would, but that's besides the point. So, I think it's important to have opinions on movies and I think it's important to promote good movies and promote movies in general and to not if you didn't like a movie, why didn't you like it? Not don't just be like mindless like I didn't like it or like I didn't like it cuz everybody else didn't like it, you know? It's like I don't know, like sit down, watch a movie all the way through and really think, do am I like still watching this or do I have to turn it off because it's so bad? Like if you watch the whole movie, then you must have liked it, right? It just seems ridiculous.
I think that, um, yeah, I think that the way to tell if a movie, like, is going to be good is by the audience rating or Rotten Tomatoes and not, like, the critical score of it. Because critics, like, they watch so many movies. They watch so many movies. There's no way that they're gonna be like, yeah, this one's really good. But audience ratings are for people who seeked out, I want to watch a superhero movie, I want to watch a horror movie, I want to watch, whatever movie this is, um, and gave an honest review of how they felt about it. And I feel like people's opinions should go above the critics' opinions because critics are, I'm not going to say they're overworked because I really don't know, but they're probably really tired.
I
I would
also
be
want to say
tired.
that critics take their job too seriously. They take in mind different aspects of the movie. They take in mind the plot. They take in mind different things and how it adjusted to the plot, the build to the plot. They take in account all these different things. When I watch a movie, I sit down, I stare at the screen, and I'm like, haha, that was funny. I liked the movie. You know, it's like critics, they take into account several things. They'll be like, I liked this part, but that's it. And it's like, well, I would never follow a critic's review of to watch a movie or not. I You're right. I would always follow an audience score because it's like if you like superhero movies, then go and see Blue Beetle. Or if you like fantasy movies, then go and see Lord of the Rings. Like I'm not going to just judge a movie based randomly off I want to see that. You know? And that brings me to another point of how on earth do people just show up to the movie theater and not know what they're gonna watch?
I think it's funny that I knew exactly where you were going with that when you started with "How on earth?" because we ask it every time. Because I don't think that the general public knows this, but every movie theater employee that's worked at box office like for one shift knows that there's so many people that go to the movie theater just to watch a movie, not to watch like this specific movie. They're just okay with watching any movie. They're like, okay, well, what's this about? That doesn't sound very interesting. I'll watch it though, and then I'll come back like 20 minutes before it's over to get a refund because I'll be like, I didn't like it.
Yeah, and it's also like a lot of we have the option on our box office screens to give people a synopsis of the movie. I don't know if it's like that for all theaters, but most likely if you ask somebody at box office what's this movie about, they'll show you that screen. Um but a lot of the synopsi, the summary of the movie,
Synopsises?
synopsises, the summary of the movie. Um A lot of them just say, like, a sentence, and they don't go that deep into the movie. Other like, sometimes it'll be, like, a whole entire paragraph, but I wouldn't base that tiny little thing off, "Oh, I'm gonna see that." But at the same time, you're willing to spend that much money. Movie theaters are expensive nowadays. You're gonna spend that much money to watch anything. And, I mean, yeah, if you don't like it, get a refund, but, like, that's not how life works. You can't just show up to a movie and say, "I wanna watch it just because I wanna watch it," and then waste an hour of your time because you didn't pay attention to if you were gonna enjoy it or not. Like, that's an hour of your time you could have been doing something else, like watching a good movie.
Yeah, I think it's like I don't think we've had too many people that have done this, but I think it's insane how many people like watch the entire movie but then say that they really hated it or like come to box office for a refund and you have to be like, "Well, you watched the whole movie and you were provably in the theater because the person at the door stand ripped your ticket. So, I can't refund this for you." Like you watched the movie. If you didn't like it, you could have walked out at any moment. Um, and I also like that one lady that told us that she really like she hated Blue Beetle and she walked out within like the first 10 minutes. It's like it the first 10 minutes like nothing happens. Not like nothing happens like it's a boring movie. Like nothing happens that would make me walk out of the theater. The story is still being built. It's not like the story was already built and you were like that's not interesting enough for me. The story is still continuing to build for like the first 30 minutes of the movie. You can't decide to walk out 10 minutes after the movie starts and then expect like that to be like, "Oh my god, I didn't like the movie because I only watched 10 minutes of it." Like that's not crazy. You're just stupid.
So what we're trying to say is don't walk out of a movie if you don't like it and try to get a refund. Um, if you seriously like if the movie's like disturbing or whatever and you brought your kids and you didn't want to, then yeah, walk out, get a refund, whatever. But if you didn't like it purely because you're bored, I'm sorry, you're stuck with that decision. Like I'm sure that you've wasted your time. Now you've also wasted your money. And like, yeah, sure you'll get a refund, but that's also an hour you're never gonna get back. And like 10 minutes into the movie, give me a break. And I have gotten a few people who come after the movie's over, and I just straight up tell them no, because a lot of the times they'll it's like they're trying to get their money back or whatever. They're trying to make it so it's like they never spent it, whatever. But that's a trick that doesn't work on movie theater employees anymore. Um just because we're so used to it. But I mean, if you're gonna do something, if you're gonna want to learn like a movie theater hack, do something else more interesting. Don't go to the box office person after your movie's done and ask for a refund. That's lame. That's lame. And also you're stealing. Ever thought about that? You're stealing from the movie, not us. Like we don't care. like they always think like oh it goes to them. The box office money doesn't go to the movie theater at all, and I think people need to know that. None of
Yeah.
the prices are so high because the movies want them to be high. It's the corporations. It's not well, not the corporations, but it's like the companies that want the movies to be high because they need a high grossing. And it's not us. We don't People always wonder why are the concessions prices so high? That's why. Because if it's a big movie theater, then most likely the concessions will be very expensive because they have to pay for that entire movie theater through only concessions, not through box office. And you got to really keep that in mind. Like National Cinema Day was our busiest day of the year by far. And a lot of people were like complaining about the prices and like you just got a $4 movie ticket. Like the least you can do is pay for your popcorn. You're not getting a $4 popcorn. And I mean that stuff's good quality. Like people look forward to their movie theater popcorn. It's like we make it a special way, we make it in that kettle, and they also want to spend their money. Like we make nice stuff. It's not like we're handing you trash. And like yeah, the candy's expensive. Like I think there's like a bag of M&Ms for like 5.25 or something, but that's not that bad considering that you can go to the store and get the same thing for the same price because it's a larger bag. It's all larger stuff. It's not like we're just ripping you off.
Yeah, I think that when people come to the theater, they expect us to, like, when they complain about the prices of like food and stuff, they expect us to be like, "I'm so sorry, let me get you a discount." And it's like, A, the employees don't even get that big of a discount. Like it depends on what you're buying because it's like 30%, I think. But if you're buying something that's like $5, you're just gonna have to pay like 450 for it or something. Like it's it's not that much better. And B, the reason we don't do discounts is because that's the price. If we were going to discount it, we would have just made it a lower price. We can't sell it for anything less. And there have been times where I've like made exceptions and been like, okay, well, this person is clearly struggling. Like, this lady came up to me and she was like, I'm really hungry. Is there anything that I can get? I don't have any money. And she was like living on the street. And I, like, it was pretty decently busy. Um, but I was just like, we're popping so much popcorn, and I know that we're gonna throw out a bunch tonight. So I gave her like a box of popcorn, and I was like, "Do you want water?" And she was like, "Yes." And I gave her water. Um, but like that's a very specific situation where it's like that's not something I'm just gonna do if you're complaining about the prices. She wasn't complaining; she was asking for help. But then there's old white women that come in with their kids, and then you're like, all right, so the popcorn's 9.75, and they're like, 9.75? It shouldn't be that much. And then you're like, yeah, sorry, you came to the movie theater, a place that your entire lifetime, I don't care if you're 70, your entire lifetime, the movie theater has been known for being expensive before you guys even raised the prices. You are the reason that it's more expensive, if anything.
Well,
Stop complaining.
and not only that, it's like they'll be like, "Go back in my day, popcorn was $1.75 or something like that." Yeah, but you made 25 cents an hour. So, and also people don't keep in mind where at our movie theater anyway, that going to a movie theater is a luxury. It's not, you can watch a movie at home. You don't have to come here. But coming to the movie theater, spending 11.25 on a ticket, 11.75 whatever, and then going and getting your 9.75 popcorn. Yeah, sure, it adds up, but this is a luxury. When you're spending your $200 plane tickets to Vegas, you don't care. When you're going to Ross and you're looking at the t-shirt that is $12, you're like, "What a good deal." You don't think I could be using that on a movie ticket. you know? It's like this is a luxury. Going to the movie theater is a luxury. There's nice seats. You're basically getting food handed to you. All you have to do is pay for it. You can get, I mean, if you ask for it, we will bring your food to the theater for you. You don't actually have to carry it. I mean, it's considerate if you carry it and it's common sense to carry it, but if you can't, we will. If you're in a wheelchair, we'll carry it for you. And it's like, I just don't get why people get so upset over that. And I mean, people try to sneak in food. Like, they'll do this crazy stuff. I saw a dude put a pizza box under his shirt. And I'm like, dude, I can see that. And also, I don't care. Bring in your pizza box. Just clean up after yourself. Like, I think the main reason that movie theaters that aren't our company, like, say, don't let anybody with outside food bring in food. They say that because they don't want you making a mess and not cleaning up after yourself. Um, if you're gonna go to a movie theater, clean up after yourself. It's the least you can do. You're getting this food handed to you. You're getting these really nice tickets for this really big screen that has really nice speakers. The least you can do is pick up your trash. It's not that hard. And it makes our job so much easier. Because, I mean, think of it. What people throw onto the floor, ushers have to pick up every single one of those things for every single one of the theaters that have gone now. So, I don't know. Just be more respectful. Anything else do you want to add on? Like movies you recommend watching?
Um, I do really recommend like almost the entire series of Pirates of the Caribbean, if not the entire series. But that's mainly just because as time goes on, like if you're just watching like the whole thing in a marathon, it can get a little bit repetitive. So like the first three movies, I feel like are really solid movies. At least the first one, you gotta watch the first one. It's like you haven't lived until you've seen that movie. And I don't care if it's controversial to say this, but Johnny Depp was a great actor in that movie. And he made the character what it is. And Disney thought it wasn't going to be a good movie because they were like, his performance sucks. This isn't going to be a good movie. And then it went on to be like their biggest movie of all time.
To this day, I think, because they still have they put out other movies based on their rides, like Haunted Mansion. Those movies don't do well. The
Yeah. And they've made like
recent one
three
didn't
of
do well.
those.
Yeah. It's like that Pirates of the Caribbean will always hold up. Um, I think what I would recommend watching, any Batman movie, really. You can never lose with those. Blue Beetle, any DC movie that's not Suicide Squad, because those are lame. Um, but yeah, I think that you're bound for enjoyment when you see a Batman movie. It makes it even better if you read the comics because it's just so satisfying. But yeah, why don't you take us out, Gigi? Take me out.
I don't have a gun to do that with.
Oh, I meant on a date. The other
Olivia, I
time
work part time at a movie theater. You think I can afford that?
Wait, so if you work part time at two jobs, does that make you full time?
No.
Finish it, Gigi.
All right. That's all for today. Thank you for being a fellow pasta lover, pasta fam. We love you, we miss you, and we hope you eat some good pasta tonight. Good night.